tonight where we are talking matters health and matters diabetes. I am joined virtually by Dr. Vincent to have this conversation on the same, and keep your questions and comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. Good evening, Dr. Vincent. How are you?
Good evening, Madam Davis. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for the invitation to have this conversation online tonight.
Thank you so much, and of course for taking time to have this conversation. And I think it's quite crucial that we go straight to what is diabetes and how does it affect the body?
Quite a number of people have gotten an opportunity to have information about diabetes, and now it is clear for us to have the definition of what diabetes is. Diabetes is most of the times referred to as diabetes mellitus, or diabetes, or which is a chronic disease. Diabetes is a chronic disease where oftentimes you find that your body is not responding to insulin, or you find that your body is producing insulin which is insufficient, and your body cannot be able to assimilate or cannot be able to use the same amount of insulin which is produced, leading to elevated blood sugars in your circulation.
And Daktari, you have mentioned diabetes, and maybe take us, what are some of the types of diabetes and how do they differ from each other?
Actually, there are three major common types of diabetes which are affecting people worldwide, but the most prevalent type of diabetes which is affecting people is type 2, which most of the time it is known as non-insulin dependent type of diabetes. Just to mention the three types, we have what the type 1 diabetes, which results or which comes when your body is producing or when your beta cells in the pancreas are affected and are not producing sufficient amounts of insulin. Or you find that your body itself attacks the beta cells which are responsible for production of insulin, and then the result is that your blood sugars is going to shoot because of the autoimmune attack on the beta cells of the pancreas. Number 2, we have what type 2 diabetes, which is when your pancreas or your body cells are not responding to the insulin which is produced by your pancreas. Number 3, we have what the gestational diabetes, which mostly affects women who are bearing pregnancy because of hormonal changes in their body.
Thank you so much for that wonderful explanation. Perhaps you can take us through why type 1 affects more younger people and children.
According to the statistics which have been published by the organizations from the US, because of the lifestyle and people are shifting now from, people are now adopting a sedentary lifestyle, you find that a younger population is now getting affected with this type of diabetes, because it is a silent killing disease. Most of the signs and symptoms, they can manifest, but people never take it serious. For example, when your kid is complaining of maybe not seeing properly, having tingling or burning sensations at the peripheral parts of the body or the extremities, it is never taken serious. That is why it is affecting the youth, because of lack of exposure and people taking it as a serious, people not taking it as a serious disease, which can lead to more complications.
And now you have mentioned some of the signs that, of course, some children may have. Perhaps you could take us through the signs and symptoms that people should be aware of.
The signs and symptoms of diabetes are just like, mostly they are common signs, but people do ignore them. For instance, you can be having frequent urination all through the day. You can be having dry skin. You might be having you might be feeling thirst most of the time, a condition which is known as polyphagia, or where you need to take more food. That is when you know that now you are getting a sign of diabetes. Another number, you might be having burning sensations at the periphery, or you might be experiencing numbness at the periphery or the extremities. That is to mean the foot and the organs which are far apart from the, the central trunk. Also, you might be having a problem with your vision, or you cannot be seeing clearly. That problem also affects for those people who have already been diagnosed of diabetes.
And now, Dr. Vincent, what are some of the complications that come with diabetes, and how can they be managed?
As we are speaking, diabetes can lead to so many complications on your body if it is not well managed. For example, you can develop even stroke, you can have heart-related conditions, even heart failure. And just to mention, but most people do not die because of diabetes. They die because of complications which develop out of diabetes. Heart attack is a complication which comes out of diabetes. You are having chronic fatigue, chronic headache. It is a result of diabetes. Having peripheral neuropathy or your nerve damage, which is a sign of a stroke. You might be having a problem with your kidney, because now your kidney is not going to function properly because of the workload which is being subjected to it. Also, you might be having muscle problems, because now there is a lot of blood sugar in circulation which cannot be utilized. That is why sometimes you might feel fatigued.
And now we have heard that 6 out of 10 Africans living with diabetes are undiagnosed. And perhaps you can take us, how is diabetes diagnosed?
There are several ways in which you can take a diagnosis of diabetes. First, you have to do regular checkups, whereby we measure your fasting blood sugars and random blood sugars, and also we have to measure hemoglobin A1C and see the levels in which your blood sugars are in. For fasting blood sugars, the normal ranges for people who say they don't have this kind of disease, it should range from 70 to 100 milligrams per deciliter. Also for random blood sugars, maybe after 2 hours after your meals, it should range between 170 and below milligrams per deciliter. That is when you can be able to know you are not in pre-diabetes, or you are not of this silent killing disease, which is diabetes.
And maybe what lifestyle changes can individuals make to reduce the risk of developing diabetes?
There are a number of things which people need to do so that they can prevent they can make themselves at a better chance of developing this silent killing disease. Number one, they have to look for dietary practices in which it has to incorporate a rule of fourth. If it is your plate, it should have a portion, a quarter of your carbohydrates. And for this scenario, your carbohydrates should be of low glycemic index, so that they cannot be giving your digestive system a heavy workload to work on them. Also, you take foods which are low in proteins, especially animal proteins. Also, people should reduce taking or consumption of saturated fats and saturated sugars, because the commercial sugars or the commercially manufactured sugars, they offer your body a burden which they cannot be able to process the sugars and put them into store. We also recommend that people should maybe make a walk of 30 to 45 minutes a day, and that exercise should be monitored by the health care provider of whom the person is tagged to. But all these measures should be self-centered to the person himself, or to the person who is ailing from diabetes, so that it can be managed properly.
And one of the risk factors that a lot of people are aware of is that diabetes is hereditary. Are there other risk factors, and is that a risk factor as well?
Actually, it is a risky factor, but most people tend to think that if my family has the history of diabetes, then definitely I will get it. But from the management point of view, if you manage this diabetes well and you change your lifestyle and you work on your diet, the thing of heredity or the thing of you inheriting this diabetes, it is something of the past. Because if you work properly on your diet, you work on your physical exercise, there is nowhere you're going to be battling with the adverse effects of diabetes. So that is sometimes it is referred to as a myth and misconception when it comes to diabetes, because most people misinterpret that one and they go live their sedentary lifestyle and the signs and symptoms befell them and they get affected.
And now, Dr. Vincent, how can people living with diabetes monitor their sugar levels, and how do they deal with it? Should it be high or too low?
So for you to be at the safer side, or for you to be on a lukewarm state of this disease, you should do regular checkups. I know when you go to your personal doctor, he or she will recommend you to have a glucometer for you to be monitoring your blood sugars, maybe before and after meals. You can be having rancid strips so that you can be taking your blood sugars at an individualized level. But what I can advise is, once you've known that, or once you've been diagnosed of diabetes, there are those simple steps which you can do at home. Like dietary practices, it is not something that your doctor is coming to look at. It is something which you can look at you as an individual. Exercise, you train yourself, you remain disciplined, you discipline your mind. You can also practice some things like acupuncture, which a good number of people have elicited effects because it has worked on them. You can also do body relaxation and practice mind and body games, which can also help you at a bigger or at a larger state of managing this disease and having a keen study on how you can manage your blood sugar levels. Also, you should be having constant meals so that your blood sugar should not go down below the level and you have a condition known as hypoglycemia. You can easily manage high blood sugar, but low blood sugar, it is dangerous because resuscitating or bringing it back to normal, it can take a longer process.
Now, what is the importance of medication and insulin in diabetes management, and how can they be used effectively?
Following regular timetable or regular administration times as advised by your medical practitioner or as advised by your doctor, it is mandatory. Because if you are not disciplined, you administer insulin today and you miss the next time or the next dose, then it means your body's response to this type of insulin is going to go wrong. And that one will require that you change the type of medicine which you are taking so that it can have effect on your body. What I needed to mention here so that people can be aware of this disease, whenever you feel that you are better today, it doesn't mean that you should stop taking your medicine. You should follow the guidelines, so follow the dosage so that your body can be able to start reproducing the insulin if you are at a younger age. And if you are old enough, remember age is also a risk factor for development or for developing diabetes. So if you are at a younger age, take advantage of the drugs or the injectable insulin, the orally taken insulin or the inhaled insulin so that you can be able to make your body respond quickly within the shortest time possible.
And now, a lot of people do say that stress is part of the contributor to have maybe high sugar levels. Can you confirm for us whether stress is one of the contributors, and are there strategies to dealing with emotional and psychological aspects of living with diabetes?
Most of the things when it comes to the information which is circulating out there, most people tend to think that when you are stressed, you can be at the risk of developing diabetes. Yes, it is true, because when you are under stress, most of the systems do shut down, and it forces the body to produce stress hormones. And whenever stress hormones are produced, your body is not going to respond to insulin. Definitely, you are going to develop diabetes. But there is always the best way to come out of this the stress things. Your body, it can be having stress naturally because of maybe a disease which is developing. You can be having physical stress maybe because of financial constraints. You might be having stress because of your love affairs. You can be having stress because of other things. But management of stress, especially engaging in physical activities, makes yourself or makes your mind to free from the state of accumulating stress hormones, and it starts refreshing once again. Also, it is important that people should know how to handle stress matters. For instance, you should not take financial things, you hold onto them. Practice mind games. Go to silent rooms, practice mind games, practice yoga. Also, take time to go to open areas so that you can take fresh air in, so that you can have your body refreshed, so that you take out the stress.
Thank you so much, Dr. for those wonderful insights. And of course, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to diabetes. And now time is not on our side. Maybe as you give your parting shot, you can also tell us how can caregivers and family members of a diabetic person come in assistance?
For caregivers who are the personal level, who are directly linked to people who are living with diabetes, we advise that you should you should monitor the blood sugars, ensure that their blood sugars never goes below the normal, by giving them food, moral support, engaging them in physical activities, engaging them in mind breaking activities, so that they don't feel rejected. It is good also to practice things which are alternative to alternative and complementary to conventional medicine, but they are not to be a substitute. For example, you can maybe take a physical massage, you do deep tissue massage, you can do reflexology, you do acupuncture. Some of the services you can do at home, or you can walk into alternative healthcare providing facilities which are near you, so that you can experience the relaxing effect of the alternative techniques.
Thank you so much. And maybe even as we conclude, you can tell us, is there a cure for diabetes?
As we are talking right now, there is no known cure for diabetes, but through proper management, you can easily cure diabetes. So the key thing here is management, and this management should work hand in hand with your dietary practices. Change your lifestyle in terms of eating, do your physical activity, and stop taking highly processed foods. That is when you can say you are at a better chance of curing diabetes.
And now, looking at the cost of medication, being a doctor yourselves, how do you think the cost of medication is in Kenya? Are Kenyans able to afford, because you have seen even Kenyans are not even getting tested? Tell us, how is the cost of medication and what needs to be done in that sector?
Indeed, it is true that the cost which is given to the management and the treatment of diabetes is so high, that most of the people do not afford. And that's why you find that most Kenyans, whenever they are even told to go and make a blood test for their blood sugars, they can't afford. Maybe a strip goes at 200 and a common man cannot be able to afford. But it is important that people should take their health as a priority. They should prioritize their health over other things. Because if they have got the proper health, they can be they are at a better chance of standing well. Despite the fact that the cost is so high, it is important that they should at least take their blood sugar test at least once a month so that they can be able to know which practices are best for them to embrace. Also, they can get there are free medical camps where they can get a screening for diabetes. They also get educated on what practices they can be doing at home. In as much as the cost is high, let individuals take personal initiatives so that they can be engaged in these big conversations.
Thank you so much, Daktari, for joining this live broadcast. Maybe briefly, in a minute, you can give your parting shot.
Thank you for inviting me to have this discussion with you tonight. I would like to encourage people who are living with diabetes to incorporate personal management care plan to their daily care plans, so that they can be able to manage this disease, and eventually they will come out as pioneers who will say, through proper management on working on their diet, working on their physical exercises, and coming out of the sedentary lifestyle, they have healed. For example, you might be interested in having alternative services like the acupuncture. You can visit us at Kasarani, Eden Plaza, opposite the gates, the police gates, so that you can come and have a view of how these alternative practices can best help you. You can also contact me on the number 0792729863 for more information. Thank you.